right, so we've got a quick video for you on how to actually calculate z-scores. So first, let's remember what a z-score is. It describes how many standard deviations away from the mean an x value is. So over here, what we've got is the mean of 5, which of course shows up at the exact center of here. So this is my mean at 5 hours. And then here we've got our standard deviation of 1.5, and that describes how spread out this is. So again, when you have a standard deviation, that means that you're gonna split. So we got here is 1.5 away, here is 1.5 away, and here's the last 1.5. You're gonna do that on both sides. Each side gets split into 3, 1, 2, 3 sections, and then there's a tiny little bit over here, 1, 2, 3 sections, tiny little bit over here. Okay, so this is the hours that teenagers spend on their phones. Most of y'all spend between 4 to 6 hours on their phones. Few of you spend like 2, 1-ish hours. Few of you spend 8 or more hours on their phone. So we're gonna take a specific person who spends 8 hours on their phone and figure out what would their z-score be. Well, their z-score, 8, happens to be exactly 1, 2, all the way up from the mean, and so their z-score is exactly 2. If we've got another person who spends 3.5 hours on their phone, that is exactly 1 z-score below, or 1 standard deviation below the mean, so their z-score is exactly -1. So you got a positive z-score, you're over here. You got a negative z-score, you are over here. How do we actually calculate those? Well, then we need the calculation. Here is the formula that you would use. You would say the z-score is the same as their x value minus the mean divided by the standard deviation. So for example, our -1 here, if we wanted to actually show that in a calculation, what we would say is that their z-score is equal to their x value, which is 3.5, minus the mean, which is 5, divided by the standard deviation, which is 1.5. 3.5 minus 5 is -1.5 divided by 1.5, and that would get you a total of a -1. So that's how we got their z-score of -1 if you're not just like looking at this. If you had somebody who had a slightly more complicated z-score, so let's say somebody who spent exactly 7 hours on their phone, so they've got 7 here, it's going to be the exact same thing. Their z-score is going to be equal to their score, which is 7, minus the mean, which is 5, divided by the standard deviation, which is 1.5. So you would get 7 minus 5 is 2, divided by 1.5. And if you want to, by all means, you can use a calculator for this. You're going to get their z-score is about positive 1.3 repeating. So that is how you would calculate z-scores. You need to do that for 2 of your things in this project. Let me know what questions you might have.